Hi everyone, and welcome back to the IT Hub. In today's lesson, we will be looking at how we create that last of the 3 tables that are in the Food and Rum Festival SBA. We are going to be following the same routine, but the table is going to take a little bit more for us to complete than the previous ones. We won't be able to copy and paste as much, but we're still going to be using the spreadsheet to create that database table. It makes our lives so much easier. All right, so here we're going to do now. We're going to create a new sheet as usual by clicking on the new sheet option. And we are told that this table is supposed to be called sponsorship deals. And it should have the following fields: a sponsorship deals ID, followed by a sponsor ID. And because you have sponsor ID in your database already, please type it the same way. Sponsor ID, event ID, and the same thing for event ID. Then we have the tiers. So we have 3 tiers. So we have tier 1, tier 2, and we have tier 3. You're supposed to use sponsor ID and event ID as the fields. Is going to be a composite key, and you're also asked to populate the table with the suitable data, right? So what you're going to be doing now is we're going to be copying some of the data from some of the tables. Now, I'm going to go back to the sponsor table because we had a table called sponsor on the spreadsheet. Right, I'm going to copy the sponsor IDs. This one, you can copy these. Right click, highlight, right click, copy. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back now to my sheet 4, which is where I have my new table. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. Right, now this is the part that is going to take a little bit of time. We will now need to see who is the sponsor, and then we need to look to see which tier they sponsored at. So let us go to the sponsorship table, and I'm going to go over, because they are already in alphabetical order, the table, the sponsors are already in the correct alphabetical order. I'm going to be able to, well, at least they're in the same order that they're here inside of that table that I'm building. I'm going to be able to access the tier, the values, right, that they sponsored. So all I need to do is highlight this area here again, right click, and I'm going to copy. When I copy, I go back to the table, the new table that I created. Which is on my sheet 4. Then I'm going to right click and paste. Now, these students, we can't just paste it like that. We have to paste you can do what is called a paste special, right? So I can say paste special, and then I can select how I want to paste. So there are different ways I can paste. I can paste as a format, I can paste as the values, I can paste a multitude of ways, right? So I'm going to just choose values. So I'm going to select values here. And so it will just paste the raw values. It will not set them as currency, but I can go ahead and highlight and set them to currency by going to the number group and clicking on currency. All right. You will have to determine which event or events the sponsor at. All right. So I'm going to create a sponsorship deal ID, and then I'm going to work out the event ID, and we'll get back to that. So let us look at the sponsorship deal ID. The sponsorship deal ID should contain 5 numbers, right? I'm going to start with 0. Well, 0 is not going to record. I'm going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, No, this is wrong. This is only 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. And then the next one is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to see if I autofill this, if Excel is going to pick up what I'm trying to achieve and give me the numbers how I want them. All right, so the last one has 4 numbers. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some change here. I'm going to delete these last ones. I don't want to make my work difficult. So I'm going to go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then the next one is going to be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many is this? No, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That's what it should be. And then I'm going to autofill and see how that works out. That should give me enough. I have to work on these now. So just ensure, students, that you get your 6 unique digits there. I'm going to pause the recording. I'm going to come back after I've filled in the rest of the data. And by the time I get back, I should have everything okay. So I have put in my 6-digit sponsorship deal ID that is unique to every record. What I'm going to do now, what I've done already is to copy the event IDs and I've put them on the right hand of the middle of my screen, as you can see. And what I'm going to, because there was no specific event that the sponsor sponsored, they only showed you at which tier the sponsor sponsored. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, look at each sponsor to see how many tiers they sponsor that and give them an event. You can't give them an event more than one time, except that they sponsored it at more than one tier. For example, for this sponsor sponsored at tier 3. I'm gonna just copy this first event ID and I'm going to paste it here. No, this sponsor will not repeat because they only sponsored at one tier, right? Then no, this sponsor sponsored at 2 tiers. I can choose more than one event, but what I'll have to do is I'll have to also put this sponsor information again. All right, guys, I'm going to fix this up and come back and explain to you how to complete this portion of the table. Okay, so with the sponsorship of the events is taking place, what we're having is that we're having a sponsor sponsoring one event at more than one tier. And you may have we'll have a situation where an event is sponsored by more than one sponsor. But what you need to ensure is that all the events are represented. So I'm going to copy, make sure that every event is taken care of first. And then I go ahead and I do the repetitions where it is important for each event. Okay. And if you just copy them in blocks and paste them somewhere, at least you know that you'll get a chance to have every event being sponsored. And then after that, now you can go ahead and duplicate the events to say, okay, it was sponsored by more than one sponsor. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just type in a random event here because all of them have already have a sponsor. RYS 123 JCF 114, then RYS 117, YSF 118, BRY 119, and there we have it. So remember, students, that it's 15 sponsors. Each of them may sponsor an event at more than one tier, and an event may have more than one sponsor. That is the whole idea of the sponsorship deals table. All right. So I'm going to delete this portion because I don't need it. And then I'm going to go to the database and I'm going to import it. I have already labeled this sheet sponsorship deals table. So I'm going to save my Excel spreadsheet and I'm going to go back to my database that I was working with. And I'm going to import that new table. So we click on the external data tab as usual. In the import and link group, click Excel, and we're going to browse. We're going to use that the same file that I was using previously. Click OK. Wait on it to come in. Then we're going to select the sponsorship deals table from the list. Click Next. Ensure that the first row contains column headings box is checked. Then Next. Then we don't have to set the data types here. We can wait and we ensure that we select our own primary key, which is sponsorship. We're not going to use sponsorship deal key ID for the key. We're going to say no primary key at this time because we're going to create a composite key. And then we say next. And then we're going to call the table sponsorship deals. And then click finish. We're not going to save the import step, so we close that. And our table should appear shortly. Here is our table. We're going to go to the design view of the table by clicking on the home tab, clicking view, design view. We're going to ensure that the data types are correct. So the sponsorship deal ID, if we don't want it to be number, we want it to be, it can be text. You can leave it at number because you're not going to be performing any mathematical calculation on it. You can change the short text and change the field size to 6. Then for the sponsor ID was, the size of it was, I believe it was 5 in the sponsor table. So we have to set it same short text, but we have to change the field to field size to 5 because when we're ready to do the relationships, it's not going to work out correctly. Okay, and then now for the event ID is 6 characters, so we have to change the field size to 6. We leave it as short text, and tier 1, 2, and 3 are currency, so we don't need to change any of those. Decimal places, we can set that to 2 for each of them. So I'm setting mine to 2. It is by default, it says auto. I'm changing mine to 2. And there we have the sponsorship deals table. We can go back to the view, datasheet view, and we can view the data that was entered previously. And there you have it, students. This is the last video in terms of creating the tables. I hope you have found the video informative. And if you have found it informative, why don't you go ahead and hit the like button. And if you have not yet subscribed, you're wasting your time. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more awesome videos.